In this video, we are diving into the world of Pokemon Infinite Fusion, where we will be creating some insane new Pokemon. This game lets you combine any two Pokemon, allowing you to make some of your dream fusions, like maybe Bidoof and Arceus. But today, I didn't want to combine just anything. No, I wanted to use only Ghost type fusions. So for today's run, I've randomized my encounters to find the most Ghost types possible. With that all out of the way, sit tight, grab some popcorn, and get ready for a journey with some unique Ghost type Pokemon. I make some incredible fusions, and believe me, you will want to stay until the very end to see them all. Well, let's begin. I started this adventure by picking my starter Pokemon, and the randomizer was on my side and gave me a Honedge. But then my rival fused the other two Pokemon together, creating Trapseed. It looked like it was in pain, so I had to take matters into my own hands and put it out of its misery with Fury Cutter. But it was a close call because Honedge almost fainted from Trapseed's iron barbs. Next, I had to deliver a package to Professor Oak, and he rewarded me with a new item, a Fusion Splicer, which allows me to fuse Pokemon together and create all sorts of cool combinations. I then caught a bunch of different Pokemon, like Needlet, which I knew I could unfuse to get a Ghost type in Golett. And then something truly amazing happened. I found a Shedinja. This was a game changer because when you fuse Pokemon together, you can pick which ability you keep. So I could give any Ghost type fusion the Wonder Guard ability. And this leads to me making a absolutely broken fusion later in the run. I then caught a bunch of non-Ghost types, so I had a lot of different options when fusing. Because here's the thing, not all fusions are created equal. Sometimes they look super cool and clean, and these are the custom sprites, or you'll get these abominations, which are auto-generated fusions. So for the sake of my eyes and yours, I'll be trying my best to only use custom fusion sprites. It was now time to make my first fusion. I fused Shedinja and Golett to make Shedlet, and it looks absolutely adorable and kind of looks a little bit goofy. Unfortunately, it still has the bug ghost typing, so it doesn't make much use of the Wonder Guard ability. I then fused Honedge and Marill together to make Maredge, and this thing really has a kill you with cuteness kind of vibe going on. I made my way through Viridian Forest, but most of the trainers had generic fusions, though this chick's Geopie looked like a proper Giga Chad. I mean, seriously, did you see that chin? Only the Greeks could chisel a chin like that. But the real test came when I faced off against Brock. The tension was palpable as we went head to head. My strongest fusions pitted against his best. Were we up to the challenge? Yeah, we were. Maredge went ham with water guns. His fusions were pretty cute, but they weren't that strong. After emerging victorious against Brock, I stumbled upon an exciting encounter, a Litwick, which is one of my all-time favorite ghost types, so my heart was racing with excitement. And without wasting any time, I decided to fuse it with a Cyndaquil to create Litquill. And this is absolutely adorable. It just looks so shy and timid, I just want to hold it and keep it safe. By the way, if you are enjoying the video, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Your support means everything to me, and I need your help to hit my goal of 15k subs before the end of April. And before I go, let me know in the comment section below who your favorite ghost type fusion is. I make it to Mount Moon, and it turns out Team Rocket is causing some trouble. And once I traveled deeper into the mountain, I found them trying to make a triple fusion. Thankfully, it fails, but I'm forced to fight the scientists they bullied into helping with the experiment. And this Koffmer looks like a puddle you'd find in Hot Topic. And honestly, it claps my cheeks. I legit only won this battle because Litquill confused it, which in turn caused it to hit itself until I eventually took it out. And thanks to the XP, Litquill evolved into Litlava, which looks pretty cool, but I do prefer Litquill. I eventually make it to Cerulean, where I find an amazing encounter, Mismagius. I then test out a couple of Mismagius fusions, making this adorable witch like Riolu, and then I also fuse it with a Beedrill, and this one looks pretty decent, but isn't anything great. Maredge then evolves, but it's not pretty. And since this isn't a custom sprite, I unfuse it and unfuse Mismagius from Beedrill. This allows me to fuse Azumarill and Mismagius, making one of my favorite fusions from this run, Mismarill. I then fuse Honedge and Riolu, which makes this super clean Honlu. But it's a steel fighting type, not a ghost fighting, so I have to unfuse it. I then make do with a B-Edge instead, and with my new fusions, I'm ready to fight my rival. He leads the fight with Nidoto, which isn't a particularly strong fusion, but my god was it annoying. I was just trying to set up a rollout sweep, but it kept using Whirlwind, resetting any of my progress. Though I do eventually get the ball rolling, taking it out. His starter is second and it's evolved into Trapthorn, but it just lets me set up rollout to the point where even after healing to full HP with a potion, I'm able to one-shot it with a rollout. His new fusion Mantata is next, but once again it gets flattened by Miss Meryl's attack, leaving him with a plain old Abra, but I changed things up a little bit by one-shotting it with Astonish instead. With my rival defeated, it was time to claim my second gym badge, but Misty was disappointing as rollout easily knocks out her Jigglydean and her Odu. Her fusions weren't even that cool. I mean, come on Misty, pick up the slack a little. I then used a premium Wonder Trade ticket to get Beta, the Torchic Honedge fusion, which looks pretty funny. I do appreciate that it's basically just a drumstick. While heading to Vermilion to take on Surge, I ran into a shiny fusion, but I only had 2 Pokeballs and it broke out both times. And I'm sad to say this wasn't going to be the only failed shiny this run. Beta then evolves, but I'm once again left disappointed as his second form isn't a custom sprite. But since it's a traded Pokemon, I can't even unfuse it, so I'm stuck with this ugly duckling for now. I then catch another ugly Combustion fusion, but the other half was really what I'm after, a Haunter. I've seen some pretty cool Gengar fusions, so I was pretty excited with this catch. For now though, I have to fuse it with a Raticate. Not the coolest fusion, but it'll do for now. I then completely forgot about Bill, so I head back so I could get my SSN ticket, and unfortunately my SSN footage got corrupted because I turned off my computer while still recording, so you know, that's my bad. But nothing like really interesting happened. Which brings me to Lieutenant Surge. He leads the battle with this pretty cool Volpe, and I like that it's conducting electricity between its claws, a simple yet really cool fusion. As I led with Shedlet, who walls the Electric Crab with Wonder Guard. I hit a couple of Stomping Tantrums, and he eventually switches out bringing in Piccolet, but he did his Pikachu Diglett fusion pretty dirty as he switched it into its death. He then brings Volpe back out, and thanks to a potion it takes 2 more attacks to take it out. Leaving Surge with Rybuzz, who looks like he could have been a top star at Five Nights at Freddy's, but Wonder Guard keeps Shedlet safe, allowing him to finish off the battle with 3 more Stomping Tantrums. While making my way through Rock Tunnel, I ran into this trainer and he had some goofy friggin' fusions, like this Psymander. I also caught a few new Pokemon, which means I can rearrange my fusions, beginning with this Haunter Weavile fusion, which was simple but still looked pretty cool. I then fused Honedge and Umbreon, making this super awesome sword, but honestly anything with Umbreon's color scheme is gonna look good. But then I created the monster Zoininja, a Zoroark Shedinja fusion. And it may look cute and fluffy and wholesome, but this is an immortal beast. Thanks to its Ghost Dark type, Shedinja was weak to only one type in the game, and that was the Fairy type, which wasn't very common, so Zoininja was immune to majority of the game. And I didn't notice how strong this typing was until a bit later. I finally made my way through the Rock Tunnel and then climbed up the Pokemon Tower where I ran into my rival again. This time though he leads the battle with a new fusion, Kuboto. I start with my own new fusion Hornville, which gets to +3 with Hone Claws, and from here 2 fan attacks take out Kuboto. Second was his starter, and it eats a fan attack like it was nothing and retaliates with a Gyro Ball, one-shotting my Hornbill. I bring in Litlava, who is able to finish it off though with a Flame Burst. Third was Starbra, but once again Litlava claims a one-shot, but this time it was with Hex. This however did bring in Gyarados, and not wanting to catch a Hydro Pump or Bite, I switch into Umbreon, who forces Blue to use a potion after about 3 Night Slashes, but this back and forth has forced me to switch out into Mesmeril, who finishes the battle off with Play Rough. We then hear a commotion and it was caused by Team Rocket, but we can't go any further up the tower without the Silph Scope, which leads me to Celadon City, where it seems Team Rocket is hiding out in the sewers. So Erica and I team up, breaking some council regulations as we change the water levels to get around the base, until we run into Giovanni. Erica tries to girl boss it, but Giovanni wipes the floor with her, forcing me to fight him alone. He leads with Arnix, who counters my Ghost Ice type pretty hard, so I have to switch into Mesmeril. She gets hit by an Acid Spray on the switch, lowering her special defense. A second Acid Spray lowers her defense even further, and an Aqua Tail isn't able to one-shot the snaky fusion. Mesmeral then misses her second Aqua Tail, and the damage is starting to add up. I'm hit by yet another acid spray that leaves Mesmeral on just 1 HP, but thankfully her third Aqua Tail connects. But now I'm faced with another challenge, Hauntscan, his Haunter Kangaskhan fusion. I switch into my own Haunter fusion, but it gets immediately one-shot by Payback. So I bring in Umbridge, who takes a Shadow Ball and retaliates with an Assurance. And it looks like it can live another Shadow Ball, so I stay in and live on just 7 HP, but that's enough for Umbridge to land a second Assurance, taking out his monstrous fusion. Last was Giovanni's Ryas, who takes out Umbridge with a Rock Blast. So I was basically left with Zoyninja, and honestly I just thought it wasn't pressing Rock Blast because for some reason I was under the assumption that Zoyninja was still a Ghost Bug type, even though it couldn't be because Zoroark is neither a Bug or Ghost type. But hey, it was a guaranteed victory. I then pick up the Silph Scope and prepare to take on Erica, and at the level cap, Umbridge evolved into the majestic Blade, which looks pretty awesome. Vader also evolves, but it still doesn't look good. It's still not a custom sprite. I kind of got done dirty on this Wonder Trade. With my new evolutions, it was time to take on Erica, and this is when I realized that Zoyninja was in fact not a Bug type, as her ex-duo couldn't pluck me. So I freely set up Hone Claws and one-shot it with Feint Attack. Next was Tanape, a pretty unique looking fusion, but 2 Feint Attacks knock it out. This brings in Vileplume, which tried to counter Zoyninja's ability with Poison Powder, but a Feint Attack was able to one-shot it, avoiding the Poison Tick damage. This is when I decided though I need to ban Zoyninja because it's just a little bit too broken, which does suck because it's such a cool fusion. Vader then evolves into his final form, but once again it's pretty ugly. And then the biggest disappointment of the whole run was Litflosion. Oh, how you've fallen. With that said, I think it's about time to combine some more Pokemon. I start things off with this awesome Torterra Dusknoir fusion. I really love how the tree turns into a Trevenant. I then fuse Klefki and Haunter, and this one looks like a kid just stole my keys and keeps pretending to give them back only to pull them away last second and make fun of me. I finish things off though with this kinda cute Shedinja Porygon fusion. With the Silph Scope and the 4th badge in my hands, I head back to the Pokemon Tower where I run into a Cofagrigus. This will be a great fusion partner later down the road, but for now I've got a ghostly trainer blocking my path. And she sends out a Genwhack, and I like this concept a lot as it's like Gengar has become a shadow of the possessed Pokemon. Pretty damn cool. What isn't cool is me burning it thinking it would have physical attacks, which leads to my Duskterra getting one-shot by Shadow Ball. I then bring in Hornkey, but it also just gets one-shot by another Shadow Ball. I finally wise up and bring in Blade, who takes neutral damage from Shadow Ball and can finish off this monster with a Night Slash. I then finally make it to Mr. Pokemon, but he's unguarded, but for my efforts I do get the Pokeflute. Before continuing on though, I test out some Cofagrigus fusions, like the Celebi fusion that made me a little too uncomfortable because it looks like someone just stuffed Celebi into a fridge. But the next fusion was a lot more appealing. This Cofferas looked awesome, so I kept it fused and added it to the team. I then make it to a Snorlax blocking the way, but with some sweet tunes from my flute, it awakens and it's randomized into a Gardevoir, a pretty cool catch, and I'm excited to see what fusions we can make. After defeating this super cool Farfetch'd Machamp fusion, Hornkey evolved into Genki, but this looked less inspired. Litlotion also evolved, but sadly it still wasn't a custom sprite. And since I had some less than stellar fusions, I went back to the PC to start another round of combos. My first fusion was Lampert and Charizard, creating this awesome Lampizard. These colours are awesome and I like his little hands. I then make Dusklosion, and this one is pretty cute as it looks like Dusknoir is wearing a scuffed Typhlosion cosplay. I then make Genterra, which is probably the weakest fusion from this batch, but still pretty cool. With some new fusions on the team, it was time to face Koga, and I will admit I did accidentally overlevel for this fight, but I don't think it mattered too much. I lead with Cofferas as he lands with Venomour. I start off the battle by misclicking Will-O-Wisp as it retaliates with a Signal Beam. Ice Beam is looking like a 2-hit KO, but then it flings an item at me which causes Cofferas to get poisoned, putting her on a timer. He then stalls with a Hyper Potion, healing his Venomour to full HP, but 2 more Ice Beams take it out. Next was Beether, so I bring in the newly fused Dusklosion, who is able to take Beether out with 2 Flame Wheels, while it only sets up a Toxic Spike. Koga's Magnemite Coughing fusion was next, and it lives a Flame Wheel and hits a Sludge Bomb, poisoning Dustlosion. A second Flame Wheel is able to finish it off on the next turn, but then in comes his most annoying Pokemon, Chernuk. I thankfully land a Will-O-Wisp, putting this abomination on a timer, and from here it's a lot of waiting around as it sets up acid armors and double teams while healing with Black Sludge. Dustlosion is able to land some consistent hits, bringing Chernuk to red HP before fainting to poison damage. I then bring in Gentera, but I just have to stall for 3 turns while Burn takes out his ace. After beating Koga, I head to the Safari Zone where I catch some insane Pokemon, like this Arceus Flaffy fusion that I can unfuse later down the road. I then find a Giratina, and they really do be underselling the Safari Zone, only 500 bucks, and I've caught 2 of the strongest in-lore Pokemon. And then something even better than literal gods, a shiny. But of course, it fled after the second ball. This video alone might be enough for me to give up the title of professional shiny hunter. I'm able to get Surf and Strength though, so I can continue on to Silph Co. And before I confront Giovanni, my rival wants to battle. He now has a fully evolved Nidotto, but 2 Ice Beams from Koffras are enough to make it faint. Electrodose was second, so I burn it with a Will-O-Wisp before switching into Gentera. I land a Mega Drain, but then immediately get one-shot by a Hydro Pump. I then bring in Unblade, who is able to finish Electrodose off with a Night Slash. Third was his Tauros, who Unblade was able to take out with multiple Night Slashes while healing with Moonlights. Starbra was then an easy KO with a Night Slash, and last was his starter, but Unblade was able to fire off multiple attacks again, eventually knocking it out. With that battle concluded, we get ready to take on Giovanni together, and a Wing Attack Surf combo is able to take out his Primeape Nidorino fusion. This brings in Gengar, so I switch into Pori Ninja, but it Dark Pulses my rival's Pokemon, which means Wonder Guard would be useless as it fails to block super effective attacks. So I switch into Unblade and it takes a bit of mucking around, but eventually my rival is able to take out Gengar with a Hydro Pump, bringing in Sand Queen. Unblade is getting pretty low though, so I have to switch him out for Pori Ninja, as Electrodose takes out another Pokemon with Hydro Pump, leaving Giovanni with his Sand Queen. A combo of Shadow Ball and Hydro Pump barely leaves the Sandslash fusion with red HP, but another Hydro Pump from my rival is able to end the battle. Unfortunately, Team Rocket got what they were after, though we are able to get our own Master Ball from the scientists. Those shiny Pokemon won't get away from me now. I then head straight to Sabrina, who leads the fight with Hitmine, as I lead with Lamzard. I half-shot the potential offender with Hex as it sets up Coal Mine, and I was ready to finish it off with a second attack, but she switched out and brings in Esrion. I stay in and get smashed by a Dark Pulse. I try to hit an Inferno on the next turn, but I miss. Thankfully, she spares us by going for Future Sight. I then switch into Unblade, and I do bring her low with a crit Night Slash, but Sabrina uses a Max Potion, and from here I lose the stall wall as Unblade faints, leaving Espeon with yellow HP. I bring in Dustlosion, who is able to take it out with a Shadow Ball, Lava Plume, and a second Shadow Ball, but not without taking a bunch of damage from Dark Pulse. Alabro is next, and it's able to barely hold on from a Shadow Ball as it KOs Dustlosion with a Surf. Lamzard rejoins the battle and revenge KOs with a Hex. Gankazam is next on the list and it's able to outspeed Lampizard and take us out with a Psycho Cut. So I bring in Gentera, who sucker punches the Gankazam, bypassing the speed tiers and one-shotting the crafty little fusion, leaving Sabrina's Hitmine, but a second sucker punch finishes it off, securing our 6th badge. With Silph Co and Sabrina cleared out, I was able to travel to Johto, where I buy a bunch of evolution stones like Dust Stones. This allows me to evolve Lampizard into Chandelizard, which looks super cool and is heavily inspired by Mega Charizard Y, but with more ghostly flames, and it was definitely a super cool fusion. I then evolved Unblade into Slash, which again doesn't disappoint. I then tried to see if Vader will become a custom sprite, but no, it's still awful. Hell, this might even be the worst one yet, it's so gross and awkward. But with a bunch of newly evolved Pokemon, I wanted to change my fusions up. I start with this awesome Venusaur Giratina fusion, and I love how its vines are holding onto the orb, and the colour scheme really suits Venusaur. Next I fuse Swampert and Chandelure, making this kinda awkward but charming Shanpert. I then fuse Gengar and Kyogre to make one of my goofiest fusions yet. Lucario and Aegislash made this menacing Lucaslash. I then tested out this Dusknoir Charizard fusion, but I wasn't a huge fan. But I was a fan of this Gardevoir Cofagrigus fusion. though it might have some sus inspirations. I finished the session off with a Mismagius Charizard fusion, which is pretty damn cute. With a new team, I'm able to find and eventually challenge Blaine, the 7th gym leader. He leads with Goldash as I start with Gengar, and I'm able to knock it out with a single Surf. Chardaxdor was second, and it's able to outspeed and land a nasty crunch, but a Surf is able to one-shot it in retaliation. 99 was next on the chopping block, and another Surf claims another one-shot. Magdon is last up, but even a Resist Berry isn't able to save it from a Surf, and I'm able to get my 7th badge. It seems like Team Rocket is causing trouble again. This time, they've stolen a boat, so I have to go after them. Which brings me to the Sevii Islands, where Giovanni has successfully captured and fused the legendary birds to create Zap Molcuno. This 3-headed beast can attack 3 times in one turn, so it's going to be a tough battle. Girasaur is able to land a soft Shadow Force onto the Zapdos head before getting knocked out by a triple attack. I then bring out Koffavor. I use Destiny Bond in an attempt to take a head out with me, but the last attack was Safeguard, so I live. But I'm able to outspeed and take down the Moltres head as it knocks Koffavor out with a flamethrower. I bring in Shandypert, who is able to get 2 rock slides off before being taken out by an Ice Beam, getting the other 2 heads pretty low. I then bring in Lucas Slash, who takes out the Articuno head with an Aerial Ace, and then the Zapdos head with a close combat. Now you might have noticed I was a bit over leveled, and that's because I was watching a Zwigo video, and his birds were level 56, so I just assumed mine would be as well. Still a super tough battle though, despite the level advantage. Giovanni then declares he's going into hiding after getting pump stopped by a 12-year-old, but we know just where to find him. Before disturbing his retirement though, I'll need to make some fusions since my current ones are a bit over leveled. I start with this Kyogre Rotom fusion, which just looks like he's got that fighting attitude we'll need. Next I fuse Gengar and Sceptile to make Gentile, and I just love his goofy little smile. I then fused Roserade and Mismagius, which made this awesome viney broomstick like Pokemon. Definitely a top tier fusion. I then make the Fallen Angel fusion with Blastoise Giratina, and I really do enjoy that the shadows are coming from its cannons. It's a really nice touch. I then finish this batch off with the Chandelure Arceus fusion, and this proves once again that anything with Chandelure's colors will look amazing. Now that my fusions were at the level cap, I could take on Giovanni for our last badge. I lead with Kyotom as he leads with this Rhyperior Lapras fusion. I miss my first Origin Pulse as he lowers Kyotom's speed with Bulldoze while doing some pretty nasty damage. He now outspeeds me but hits me with a very weak Surf as I miss yet another Origin Pulse. His second Bulldoze then leaves Kyotom with 2 HP as we finally land an attack, one-shotting the elusive fusion. Electrio was next, so I bring in Gentile. The speedy fusion is able to paralyze Gentile though before being knocked out by a Leaf Blade. Gallistar is third, and it starts its turn off strong with a nasty Mega Horn, but we retaliate with a crit Leaf Blade. I switch out and bring in Girastoise as Giovanni uses a full restore. It then hits an Earthquake, leaving Girastoise above half HP as an Aqua Tail then brings it into the yellow. He then uses yet another full restore, but Aqua Tail sends its HP right back where it was. Giovanni is just made out of money, I guess, since he uses a third full restore, but this time Aqua Tail leaves him in the red. He then switches and brings in Go-Champ, but an Aqua Tail followed up by an Aura Sphere is enough to take it out, sending Gallistar right back into the battle. It outspeeds and takes Girastoise out with a crit Earthquake, which is a super anticlimactic way to end the standoff. I send out Rose and finish Gallistar off for good with a Giga Drain, leaving Giovanni with his last Pokemon, Rylax. But 2 Giga Drains are enough to end the battle and earn me my 8th gym badge. I then start the final round of fusions, starting with this Giratina Charizard fusion. It did look a little janky though, so I won't be keeping it. I will be keeping this amazing Arceus Giratina fusion though, because it just looks so slick and it's bound to be a strong Pokemon. This Banrail fusion however does Azumarill a little too dirty, so I'll show it off, but it's definitely a bit too ugly for my tastes. I then fuse Dusknoir and Azumarill, but once again it's just too ugly for me, and it's not giving me the option to use Huge Power. But the reverse fusion is just the right amount of ugly to make it kinda cute, and I can give it Huge Power. I then fuse Mismagius and Charizard again, this time choosing the second option. I love this fusion, it's just so cute. I then of course have to have the Gengar fusion on the team, so who better than Gangsaur? Look at that cheeky smile. This Chandelure looked amazing, but sadly I didn't put it on the team, and I ultimately decided to put Lucas Slash back on the team. Our team was looking pretty mighty, and while there was a rival fight before the Elite Four, it wasn't anything interesting, so let's start off the endgame with Lorelei. She leads with Mug On, and I assume it's a fire ice type, so I fire off a close combat with Lucas Slash, but it seems to be a fire water type, as I don't get the knockout, and to rub salt in the wound, it gets the burn off with Flame Body. It then shoots out a Bubble Beam, which does insane damage for such a weak move. Lorelei heals with a full restore as my close combat is doing significantly less damage, so I switch out as she heals once again. But now she has to deal with the might of Giratina, who is able to take out the Magon with 2 Earth powers. Weirash joins the battle and I hit a nasty Aura Sphere, but it returns with a nasty Night Slash of its own, but ultimately we win this back and forth as a second Aura Sphere takes it out. Third up is Tentostir, so I switched into Gengar, but I switched it right into an Icicle Crash, and with only 23 HP left, I go for Hail Mary Shadow Ball, but it goes for Water Pulse, leaving Gengar with 4 HP. It then misses an Icicle Crash, and I'm able to bring it low, but it eventually does hit another attack, knocking out Gengar. I bring in Kyotom and finish it off with a Surf. Lorelei then sends out Gingrowth, and Kyotom's Ice Beam is tickling it, so I switch into Chargeas, but her Ice Punch freezes her on the switch. And it takes forever to thaw out, but eventually she is free, but thanks to the rain, Flamethrower isn't KOing, and then she's left on 3 HP from an Ice Punch, but finally another Flamethrower puts an end to this Gingrowth. Mudbro is last, and Flamethrower leaves it just above half HP as Ice Fang knocks us out. I bring in Duskull, and with 2 play roughs, we've finally beaten the first member of the Elite Four. Now it was Bruno time, and he leads with a Mavire, and I was confident that a +4 Aerial Ace would one-shot, but no. It lives and fires off a Discharge, bringing Lucas Slash pretty low and paralyzing him. Bruno then uses 2 full restores, but on the second heal, Lucas Slash can't attack due to being fully paralyzed, so on the next turn, a Discharge is able to take him out. I bring in Duskull, who also gets paralyzed by a Discharge, and then misses a Play Rough, and then misses again, and then gets crit, and finally lands a Play Rough, one-shotting the Mavire. Steel Champ then comes in and finishes Duskull off with a Crunch. I bring in Kyotom and he claims the first easy knockout of the fight as 2 Surfs take it out. He then brings in his Magneton Onyx Fusion and it looks a bit threatening, so I bring in my Legendary Fusion, but of course a Zap Cannon connects and paralyzes me. An Earth Power then brings it to Sturdy, and while it does take a while, I eventually do land a second attack, finishing off that 1 HP. Maru-chan then falls to a Shadow Force and Extreme Speed combo, and this leaves him with his last fusion, Sizzle Ross. And this looks like a job for my fire type, so in comes Chargeas, and with 3 flamethrowers, I've won the battle. This brings me to Agatha, and normally I hate this battle, but let's see if her fusions are any worse. Miabat starts off the fight, but a Shadow Force forces it back into its Pokeball. Umpata is second, so I bring in Duskull, who is able to one-shot it with a Play Rough. I then let Gandoom knock out Duskull so I can get a free switch into Giratina. Sadly though, her Speedy Fusion outspeeds and lands an Inferno, which burns my Legend, meaning on the next turn the Shadow Force barely misses out on the KO. She then heals twice as Earth Power leaves her on half HP before another Inferno connects, taking Giratina out. I bring in Kyotom to finish it off with a Surf, but not before it fires off one last Shadow Ball. This allows her next Pokemon Snorgar to finish Kyotom off with a Shadow Punch. It then rests in front of Lucas Slash, which allows me to get the +4 with Swords Dance, and when it does wake up, it uses Curse, cutting its own HP in half, which allows Aerial Ace to knock it out. Wobgar is last, but 2 more Aerial Aces secure the win. This brings us to the false champion lands. Duskull is able to dodge a Hydro Pump and one-shot Dragados with a Play Rough. Togonite looks adorably threatening as it flinches Duskull with an Air Slash. A Moonblast then brings Duskull low, but a Play Rough returns the favour. Unfortunately, I can't use full restores and he can, as I bring Togonite low 2 more times. He finally attacks with an Ancient Power, but I live on 5 HP and of course, Play Rough misses. Another Ancient Power then finishes Duskull off, so I bring in Giratina, who can take it out with an Extreme Speed. Trandactyl is looking goofy, especially as it only takes 2 Shadow Forces to knock it out. His Typhlosion Dragonair fusion was up next, but a Shadow Force Extreme Speed combo easily deals with it, leaving Lance with Porydraw. And somehow I miss a Shadow Force, so it takes me out with a Dragon Pulse. But one close combat from Lucas Slash is able to one-shot it, bringing us to the champion. First is Nidoqueen, and I try to get a little cheeky with a Coal Mine on Kyotom, but he's just as cheeky as me and sets up a Swords Dance, so whoops. Ice Beam then leaves it on red HP, and knowing he'll heal, I set up a substitute to tank an Earthquake on the next turn. He then lives again, but then heals with another Forrestor, but this time I click Surf and it actually one-shots it, so I could have saved myself a lot of trouble. His Flythorn is second, but Surf one-shots it as well, and then he sends out his Rhyperior Magmortar fusion, which of course also gets one-shot. Electrodos finally puts an end to Kyoton's reign with a Waterfall. And thanks to a full restore spam, it takes a bit of work for Gyarasis to take it out with Earthquake and Extreme Speed. I then get pranked as his Starkazam switches into a normal type to eat up my Shadow Force. Aurasphere then does pitiful damage as Zen Headbutt destroys our remaining HP. I then bring in Duskull, and with 2 play roughs, I'm able to avenge the fallen legend, leaving Starkazam. It sadly outspeeds Duskull, and we fall to a Psychic. I then bring in Chargeous, but Shadow Ball isn't able to secure the KO, and Surf one-shots her. I pray that Lucas Slash can outspeed, but sadly he's too slow as the star claims another knockout. And it was all up to Gengar. Thankfully he does live an attack, and he fires back with a Shadow Ball, winning the final battle of the run, but that was pretty damn close. I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, hit that like and subscribe button, and thank you so much for the support lately, it means a lot. Honestly, this channel is one of the few things that are keeping me going lately. But if you want more videos, up on the screen here are some of my personal favorites from my channel, and so yeah, if you want some more videos, click on those. I will have another Fusion video coming out, and then I will have another Shiny Scarlet video, so have a great day, stay safe everyone, love you all.